MPC's mission is to educate and promote a Minds-centered culture of philanthropy on campus and serve as advocates of the university and the Minds Foundation. Philanthropy Tank is one of our signature events that brings together entrepreneurs, innovators, creatives, and philanthropists to better the Minds experience. This annual event, hosted like Shark Tank, provides small grants to students, faculty, and staff who aim to improve an aspect of campus culture. In the history of Philanthropy Tank, over $40,000 have been awarded to project groups, and we're excited to reveal that another $10,000 is up for grabs this year. Thanks to the Jansen family, the Zink family, and several other donors who support Minds Philanthropy Council in this amazing program. This year, because of our limited in-person capabilities, project teams submitted their initial pitch in video format. If you would like to view those submissions, you can visit weare.minds.edu/tank, and you have to scroll to the community section and click on the vote button. There you'll see the pitch videos and have an opportunity to cast your vote for who you think should be receiving the funds this year. After this panel session, we'll combine our judges' scores with community votes to help determine this year's winners or winners. I think I said that at the same time, but winner or winners, which will be announced publicly next week. So this evening is meant to gauge the sustainability, impact, and realistic nature of each of our finalists. We'll introduce everyone to our panel of judges, provide a quick overview of each of the finalists, and then spend about half the evening in a moderated Q&A session. At the end, we'll let you all know the next steps and how you can rally your friends and family to get involved to support each of these incredible concepts.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah Wistrand, and I am the Vice President of Service and Campus Engagement this year. I will be assisting Chloe in emceeing for the evening. So without further ado, let's meet our 2021 Philanthropy Tank judging panel. First, we have Terry Bridgeman, a teaching professor in the Department of Applied Mathematics and Statistics. Terry Bridgeman has been an active member and advisor of MPC over the past several years. Next, we have Susan Fukushima. Susan is the general manager of Minds Dining. She proudly leads a team that serves the Minds campus and student community throughout the year. Next, we have Begonia Ruiz. Begonia is the Associate Director for Sale, Finance, and Operations. In addition to earning 2 master's degrees from Minds, she is a proud Minds mom and wife. She oversees over 200 student organizations' finances at Minds and is an integral part of the management of student fees on the Minds campus. Next is Andrew Peterson, a teaching associate professor in the Division of Economics and Business at Minds, who is passionately in pursuit of educating students beyond the classroom through hosted seminars and workshops, including his signature I Dig Money Personal Finance series. And finally, we have Mirna Machik. Mirna is a teaching professor in the Engineering, Design, and Society Division at Minds. She is also faculty in the Thorson First Year Honors Program and is the faculty champion for University Innovation Fellows and serves her time on the Faculty and Staff Giving Committee. A big thanks to all of our judges for taking the time to be with us this evening and for providing their unique lenses in assessing each of our projects. Next, we are super proud to announce our 5 projects that have advanced to this evening's live Q&A session with the judges. Fighting Hunger at Minds, Grown at Minds, Gastronauts, Public Sustainability Forum, and Kickstart. Tonight, we will begin with Fighting Hunger at Minds. Estelle, please go ahead and get us started.
Hi guys, my name's Estelle and I'm a graduate student at Minds. I'm also fortunate enough to be the president of Fighting Hunger at Minds. I'm not sure how familiar you guys all are with our organization, but the basic gist of it is that we aim to mitigate food insecurity at Minds. A lot of people don't think food insecurity is a big problem on college campuses. Unfortunately, the national average is 40% of students across the nation experience food insecurity at some point in their college career. And actually, we had a survey that just wrapped up last week that surveyed about 900 students at Minds, and we are unfortunately kind of on track with that national average. So we are here to make that better. We've been around since 2019, And our big picture goal is to have a large and all-encompassing food pantry that's available to all of the students at Mines. Also serves as a space for wellness and relaxation for our students, because we prioritize mental health as well as physical health that accompanies staying well fed. So we were fortunate enough this year to have our community fridge that is usually located in the student center, in the hallway of the student center, relocated to a room in the student center. Now that we have that space, we're looking to expand the food pantry within the room and make it more accessible to students. So the primary reason that we're asking for funding tonight is to get a new fridge. So our fridge right now is just a standard domestic refrigerator that doesn't hold a lot of food. And while we're fortunate to have it, unfortunately, it is our primary limitation with getting food to campus and getting food to students. So first and foremost, we'd be buying a commercial fridge. We then would be renovating the space, getting a student-owned mural in the space, as well as having some art supplies and couches so students could relax and lounge in the space and hopefully build a community around the pantry. The rest of the funding would go towards renovating our old space. So I don't know how many of you guys saw a big blue bus roaming around campus last semester. That was me driving the bus, giving food away, the snackin' wagon, as we call it. Unfortunately, the snackin' wagon had an incident at the end of last semester. It needs a new battery. And over the summer, while it was decommissioned, a family of wasps decided to take homage in the snackin' wagon. And so we need some funding to A, exterminate it, and then B, get it up on running on the road again, as well as upkeep it. So you guys have been so generous to help us in the past, and we hope that we'll be able to partner with you a little more. I'm excited to see and hear everybody else's pitches. I speak kind of fast, so if you guys have any questions, now's the time to do it.
Okay, I'll jump in because I think everybody's being polite. So could you speak to two questions? One, the stigma that for students that may need the food help, and two, can you speak a little bit to the upkeep and the maintenance of I don't want to see anything growing out of the refrigerator type concept. So that kind of ongoing maintenance that would be required, and how you plan on doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stigma is a huge one. Thank you so much for touching on that. We obviously, stigma is one of the primary limitations of getting people to utilize our services, and stigma as well as awareness. And so one of the reasons we still want to have the bus while we have this new space that we're operating out of at the same time is because the bus not only provides increased awareness of our presence on campus, which a lot of people don't even know we exist, unfortunately, but it also kind of limits or takes down that barrier of having to surpass the stigma of actually going into a food pantry to access the food. Because if somebody's just driving around in a bus and giving out food, it's not really like you look like you're asking for help from somebody. And also to do with the stigma, that's kind of one of the reasons we want this space to be communal and not just for people who are going there to access food. We don't want people to see somebody walking into the room and be like, oh, they're food insecure. We want people to be there doing relaxation things. We're going to have events there, such as classes for cooking, classes for nutrition, and yoga classes and things like this. And so in those ways, we're trying to make the space more than a food pantry, so people who entering that don't have to go through that stigma or feel like they're being judged for any reason, even though they shouldn't. And your second was, oh, the upkeep of the refrigerator. Yeah, so right now we have a designated operations coordinator at the club who goes through after every sweep or after every distribution, which we do twice a week right now, and clears out the fridge, sanitizes it, and takes all of the scraps away because there's a lot of debris associated with produce and things like that. So it would be our members that are upkeeping it as well as stocking it, if that helps.
Thank you.
Do you have a specific fridge in mind? Because they can run 8, 9, 10 commercial fridges. So I'm just curious how much research has gone into what unit's actually going to go in that.
Yeah, we do. We have one. So the budget plan is to spend $2,000 on the refrigerator. It's one of those like kind of stainless steel ones, similar to kind of what Sodexo uses. So bigger and double doors open up type thing.
So I know in working in the student center that electricity is a little wonky in there. Has that been researched? Because that could be a limitation for you, just the way the circuits are running. That's something you should consider.
Yeah, we have. So we were planning on getting another fridge. I think that we actually pitched to Philanthropy Tank. It was 2 years ago before I was president or even at Mines to get a fridge that was going to be right beside where the fridge was in past years. And that electrical conversation had happened and it transfers over to this new space. So we're confident that we'll be able to do that.
Hi, Estelle. I have a couple of questions about the sustainability of the club. How are you said that you have actually submitted applications to Philanthropy Tank in the past. How are you planning on making sure that funds and food is available for the club if you don't have a stream of funding from the school, let's say? And who owns the bus and how is that going to be like, perpetuated?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. The bus was actually donated because of our work with Be Golden in the community over the summer. And so the school bought it for, I think, $1. And so they own the bus and it will hopefully be passed down through as long as it makes it through our club. And in terms of the sustainability of the food income, so we actually have a lot of partners in the community and all the food that we get is free for the most part. We do like to buy some shares from Go Farm in the fall and spring when we have the funding for it. But majority of our food is actually excess from grocery stores and pantries around the community. So that's not something we have to pay for, fortunately.
Okay, that was the last question. Thank you, judges Estelle and Fighting Hunger at Mines, for your great presentation. It is time for us to transition to our second group, Grown at Mines. Shannon, go ahead and take it away.
Hi there, we do have a couple slides, so we will share our screen and then get started. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Can you all see that? All right. Fine. Okay. So my name is Shannon Cohen, and I'm one of the project managers for Grown at Mines. I'm Juliana Valenzuela. I am the other project manager for Grown at Mines. And so I'll be covering the presentation this evening, and then we'll both be here for Q&A. So we are a new University Honors and Scholars program that has transitioned out of the Mines Greenhouse and Gardens. And just kind of a little overview of what we look to do. We're looking to build a more sustainable food culture at Mines by connecting students, and that's via hands-on learning opportunities, whether it's up at the Greenhouse and Gardens, or, tonight we ran a Winnigrodzki column night, and then producing the local organic produce at the Greenhouse and Gardens. And we're looking to do this by collaboration, across the Mines campus, departments and student organizations, as well as Golden community organizations. So the focus of our funding, the funding we're looking for tonight, it falls into two separate categories of different events and programming that we're looking to build out under Grown at Mines. So the first of which is community gatherings, and that's bringing together, the diverse members of the Mines community, whether those be students, faculty, staff, and those could be things such as putting together mosaics or having student murals done, hosting movie nights up at the gardens, that sort of thing. We're anticipating that we could host 5 of these events per semester. And this flows, next semester, and then the following fall semester are included in that. We're anticipating that the materials and supplies for each of those events will cost around $100. And then, with 10 of them, we're looking at about $1,000 there. So that's about the first half of our ask here tonight. And then the second would be our focus on educational collaborations. So we're looking to offer and just share knowledge, build a knowledge base within the Mines community related to agriculture, nutrition, herbalism. And this is going to require a collaboration, within the Mines community, but also using golden community resources, and even within the state, collaborating with other schools like CSU. So we're looking to host those sorts of events 4 times per semester at around a cost of $150 each. And so a total of about $1,200 there. And yeah, so just a kind of quick recap there. We're looking through this funding today to be able to expand on our mission of building more sustainable and accessible food culture at Mines, both through community building and educational opportunities. So thank you for your time here and consideration. And if there's any comments, questions, concerns, we'd love to answer them.
Shannon, what is the current yield of the greenhouse?
So currently we have the outdoor gardens producing vegetables that has been donated to Fighting Hunger at Mines. We've done a couple different distributions of food on campus, and then also just funneling into Blaster's Basket. At this point, we are waiting on, or we're actively fundraising for to cover the electrical cost to get the hydroponic systems within the greenhouse up and running. So the greenhouse itself is not currently producing, but that's our goal as we transition out of the summer and fall growing season, is to start growing inside of the dome.
We were also just a tiny bit delayed just because we had to build all of the raised beds this summer as well as do all of the planting. So we expect that that production to go up a bit next year.
And the cost.
Hi, Shannon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Oh, hi, Jerry. May I? Okay.
Please, Mirna, go ahead.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay. So my questions was picky. If I remember correctly, you've actually gone from doing an actual initial program and now graduating to this larger program. So good for you. The one thing that I do want to note on the educational program is that, are you considering offering it further than the Mines community? What do you think about, inviting a community in Golden as a whole? And how do you see that to be something that, in addition to what we're programming so far?
Yeah, we really see this as an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between the Mines and Golden communities. And there's a lot of overlap in, just our food systems and access to food across our communities. So that's definitely one of our goals here. Just starting with our collaborations, we're a member of Hunger Free Golden at this point. So we go to their monthly meetings and we, discuss and collaborate with those organizations like Go Farm and Calvary Church.
So in addition, the recipients of these, foods, if you will, how are you actually selling these produce? Give me a little bit more of the technicalities on that side.
Yeah, so right now all of our produce is being donated to Fighting Hunger at Mines and Blaster's Basket. Once we scale up and once we have the indoor production going, we'd love to be able to offer, maybe a CSA or some sort of buyback program, collaborating with Sodexo or Mines Market. I think, that's a little bit down the road. We have to scale up to that. But at this point, we're just looking to kind of give back And that's always going to be a component of our program, is the donation of produce and food.
I wouldn't have let Mirna go first if she was going to ask all my questions, but I did have one other one. And that is, just a little curiosity in terms of along the lines of the participants in your events. Where did you see the cost that you associated with each event? What is that covering?
Yeah, so especially in like some of the more community gatherings, we were basing that off what we expect to be our most expensive events, which are going to be primarily like cooking classes. And so that we did some brainstorming. We talked with some of the Hunger Free Golden communities like Go Farm who have run events like this and got kind of a baseline for what we expected that to be, and then reduced it even a little bit because we know that we're going to have some donations and some other financial support. The field trips are the more expensive one, the $150 per event, and the educational collaborations, because we think part of being sustainable is actually taking care of the people who are participating in our group. So we want to be able to fund speakers, and we want to pay people for their time and knowledge sharing. So that's kind of where that more expensive comes in, just kind of making sure that we're covering all our bases there.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you run events like this in the past? And if so, do you think 16 in a year is doable?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm in the graduate program now, but for my undergrad, I served as a Schultz Scholar through the Humanitarian Engineering program. And we served as the ambassadors of the program, scheduling and running a lot of the lecture series and HE events. So I have a fair amount of experience running those. And 16 is undoubtedly a lofty goal, but we have already run 4 this semester. We had our Winogradsky columns. We had several build sessions over the semester and plant giveaways. And we actually already have a cooking class scheduled for in the next couple of weeks. So it definitely keeps us busy, but that's kind of the goal. We want this to become something that's, you know, well saturated throughout the semester.
Thank you so much, Shannon and Grown Up Minds, for your wonderful idea. And thank you, judges, for all your great questions. It's time for us to transition to our third group, gastronauts. Robert, whenever you're ready.
All right, I'm going to put up some slides real quick. And here we go. All right, so my name is Ben Keefe, Robert Keefe, you know, that's my first name, but we are the Minds Gastronauts, which is a culinary club that I've just started. And before I get started, I'd just like to point out how ridiculously relevant these past 2 presentations have also been to us as a club. Fighting Hunger at Minds and Grown Up Minds would both be wonderful people to work with for a club like ours. But I'm gonna get started. I started this club originally because I was kind of, you know, I realized it was very hard to cook here. You know, I'm in the trads, and it takes a lot of work to start cooking or baking anything. I was still doing it because I thought it was worth the hassle, and I kind of have time this semester, but not everybody else has that problem, or not. Some people do have that problem, and so I looked for a club, a cooking or baking club, to see if that could ease it up a little bit. Maybe I could meet some people, and I did find Fighting Hunger at Minds, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So I decided to make the club I was looking for, which is a culinary club that encourages its members to cook and bake for the group, and to experiment with food, because I'm really into this whole idea of like looking into new foods, expanding your horizons. I branded us the Gastronauts because I thought it was fun. You know, gastronomy, if you haven't heard of it before, is the science of good food, eating and making good food. And so I went around my halls and my classes and asked people if they'd be interested. And I got a lot of excitement, which made me really excited, even from people who weren't particularly experienced with cooking or baking, which all the better, because I decided to sort of lead with that idea that we're focused on learning, and we're focused on sort of picking up new ways to cook. After our first meeting, which I made carnitas for, about 15 people, I asked what people wanted to cook for the next meeting, but the response was a little minimal. I realized that the group wasn't probably going to be a bunch of avid foodies jumping at the opportunity to cook food for a bunch of people. It was more people who were coming there to learn. It's a place you go to make carnitas or learn how to make pico de gallo or learn how to dice onions or whatever. So I asked people what their favorite foods were, a couple of them. Here's a couple of our members. You may have seen them from the video, judges. And this kind of diversity in taste was really encouraging to me because it tells me just how diverse our club can become, just how much we can learn from each other, because that's what I really want to focus on. And it brings me back to where I used to work, where I got my love of food. This is a bakery back in Kansas City. One of our line cooks, Josh, he'd make specials every week and they were just incredible. His take on a banh mi was one of my favorite things I've ever eaten. And I want to bring that excitement about food to the people in this club. I want the other members in the club to bring that excitement to each other. I want to be able to share things and make people really happy and really excited to try those things and to try and make them themselves. So, I mean, the really important mission of the club is that learning and experimentation. We're encouraging kind of out there dishes. We're encouraging like your own custom recipes, your own weird strategies for cooking, because these are what make food an exciting frontier to me. And I want that excitement to spread to other members. I want everyone involved to start looking at food the way we look at art. It's something to savor, to relish, to experiment with, and to come together around. So here's the plan. Every two weeks, we'll have a meeting. And we'll try to gauge who wants to make what or who just wants to contribute and what we want to have for the next meeting. So we'll get all that information. We'll compile a list of ingredients. We'll buy everything, get them ready for the next meeting, give them to the people who need it. And then we'll meet and we'll eat. And then we'll talk about the food. You know, we'll figure out what was really good, ask questions, and again, learn from each other. That's the really important part of all this. And obviously to enjoy the food. And we do hope to do cooking lessons and such, which again, Fighting Hunger at Minds and Grown Up Minds, I've heard are doing both of those things. So we'd love to help out or contribute to those. That would be wonderful. We also want to do our own fundraisers because we need a little bit of self-sustainability. Bake sales, food stands, cookouts, all the above, you know, those are all great options for us. And whoever wants to help in the club can help. And so what we're asking from you guys is $2,000. This will go toward ingredients. It'll go toward equipment. It'll go toward rentals for events and whatnot. It's mostly for ingredients though, especially for meetings, because we'll be feeding a lot of people and you just need a lot of ingredients for that. This should be enough to kickstart our operations, especially if we do our own self-sustaining stuff for the semester and hopefully for a little next semester. It's really important that we, or to me as the club president, that we don't make people pay for this. We want people to just come here to the gastronauts as a group that they can cook with, without having to worry about paying dues or paying for their ingredients. And money early on is really important to securing the future of the club and to building an initial community around what we can afford right away. But overall, I mean, I'm really excited to see where all of these clubs go. I'm really happy that everybody could be here, and thank you for listening. I'll take questions now.
Hi, Ben, how are you?
Good.
I have a few questions for you. I know that you're a relatively new club within the Minds community. So I wanted to ask you, what have you looked into, what research have you done with regards to collaborations across campus? As you saw, there are some organizations that already are providing some of these things, like Fighting Hunger at Minds collaborates with SAIL, doing some like cooking lessons that are open to everybody. And also, how are you going to ensure that everybody has access to these meetings, since this seems to be like very focused on the trans community?
I won't say that it's, well, let me get to the first question first. When it comes to collaboration, it makes me really happy that everybody, there are already a lot of these events happening, which means that we can be a part of those, hopefully, and that we can sort of contribute to these already existing things. I will say that, our sort of club-centric events like fundraisers for our bake sales and whatnot, that'll be through us. But, if there are already cooking lessons happening on campus, we could all contribute to that as, food-centered clubs. As for expanding the community and making sure it's accessible to everybody. We actually did hold our meeting in Weaver because they've got a more suitable kitchen for it. I'm doing my best to extend advertising everywhere that I can, because we did just start, like we literally got approved like a couple weeks ago. It's been tough getting our name out, but it helps, you know, to get a little bit of starter funding to be able to host something like a bake sale, or to be able to host something like a bigger meeting, to be able to get those people involved. I am doing my best to advertise outside of my direct community as much as possible, though.
So Ben, in your written proposal, you said that you wanted to buy some equipment. What type of equipment were you looking for?
So certain recipes would call for certain things that you can't necessarily rent out from the halls. Like let's say we wanted a stand mixer. Those are, you know, they run pretty expensive. And not saying that we'd buy one right off the bat because they are expensive, but something like that we couldn't obtain through campus directly, we would buy as a club and then keep somewhere safe for the club use.
And so how would you store it when classes aren't in session, like during the summer?
I figure if we don't get a storage option like some clubs do, we'd either have to entrust it to somebody or find a proper place to store it off campus.
Ben, real quick, one, I want to comment that the synergy between these first three groups is really amazing. And I hope, regardless of what goes on, that all three of you like collaborate. It would be wonderful to see the Grown at Minds produce being used by the
exactly.
to teach a class in the pantry for the hunger club, and so it's amazing on that part. In regards to your club, how confident are you that this will continue beyond your own enthusiasm, and that it's will be picked up and carried forward? And along those same lines, how confident are you in terms of the sustainability model that says we give you this initial sum, but after that sum to get these ingredients is up to you? Is that something going forward that you're confident about, and how confident can you speak to that a little bit?
I am pretty confident in the sustainability of the club spirit. I did start this on my own spirit, and however, going around and finding people was really, really easy. People can get very excited about that, especially considering how difficult it can be to cook on campus. So I think that sustaining people in the club, interest in the club, shouldn't be incredibly difficult as long as we keep on making sure people are aware of it, and we keep on making sure people are actually participating as actively as possible in the club. As for sustaining our financial situation, this initial 2,000, as long as we're kind of careful with it, should probably last us through the year, depending on how many events we choose to hold. Fundraising, I believe that people will buy things at a bake sale, and I think that model is at least somewhat sustainable, especially if we consider getting funds from the school. That will be important to us. It's not, I don't think we could completely self-sustain given just like a nest egg, unless we held like very, very regular bake sales and cookouts and whatnot. But I do think that we will get a decent sum of money from profits from these things, because it's pretty easy to sell food to people. If that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's transition to the next group. So thank you, judges, Ben and gastronauts, for sharing your, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, for sharing your fun plans for food on campus. It's now time to transition to our fourth group, Public Sustainability Forum. Genevieve, we are looking forward to learn more from you.
Thank you.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you for having me. My name is Genevieve Robinson, and I'm the president and founder of the Public Sustainability Forum here at Mines. I founded this organization to help sustainability focus groups on campus collaborate on projects with each other, share ideas, and work together to make Mines more sustainable, ethical, and environmentally conscious. Today, we are here to ask you to invest up to $5,000 to help us educate the Mines community on the importance of composting and implement a full access composting program that would serve everybody here at Mines. Although we are a new organization founded this March, we have already accomplished a lot of positive change thus far. This year, our organization has worked on educating the Mines community on sustainable living. We started an Instagram account with over 100 followers where we post sustainable tips, current events, and information about our organization and our members. We have recruited over 40 new members since Celebration of Mines, almost quadrupling the size of our organization since May. We work closely with the Mines Green Team, the Residence Hall Association, Fighting Hunger at Mines, and undergraduate student government so that we have a holistic and well-informed perspective on how we can make the most positive change for the campus, its students, and the environment. In April of 2021, we sent out a composting survey to all students at Mines so that we could understand students' desire to implement and utilize composting and their knowledge of sustainable living. The results of this survey showed us that most students currently don't have a very decent understanding of how composting works, but they do have a lot of passion for improving Mines in this area, and they're willing to learn and change their behaviors. And I'm going to go a little bit in depth into some of the results. So there were 112 responses to the form, all of whom were from Mines students in spring of 2021. On the 30-question composting quiz, we asked students to answer yes or no when asked if a specific item is compostable or not. The average score was a 22.5 out of 30, and scores ranged from 10 to 30, indicating significant room for improvement on the understanding of composting. On a scale of 1 to 5, 84.9% of responders rated the importance of sustainable living in general at a 4 or 5, with over half rating it at a 5. 85.7% of responders indicated they would be very likely or likely to use compost bins if they're provided. And 76% of responders are likely or very likely to encourage the use of compost bins to their peers if they're provided. I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead since we don't have a ton of time. But basically what we've been working on in this, based on that survey, is trying to form an educational program surrounding composting. So we're planning on partnering closely with Green Team on a newsletter, and more Instagram posts, advertising, merchandise, I should say, for this project. We also are planning on hosting some events, including a documentary night, and we're going to help the Mines Greenhouse, or Grown Up Mines, with their composting workshop that they're going to be putting on for Sustainability Month. And then the approximate breakdown of the funding, just as a last important thing to talk about, is we would want about $500 for advertisement and merchandise, about $2,500 for sponsoring the EcoRep program, which is a program that RHA is planning to implement to oversee composting once it's put in, about $2,000 for events, and then if we are to get more funding, more for the composting project itself, but it would come after we feel students are ready and willing to commit to this, for the education first. And now I can take questions.
I am loving the theme of this tank. This works. You fit in with the other ones. This is amazing. So the composting, are you working, will it be from a ground, no pun intended, ground up level, meaning that you're going to work on the design and the education for the students, as well as make the whole campus take part in this composting project? Am I phrasing that correctly?
Kind of. I mean, we already have composting on campus in a very minimal capacity so far. There's composting in periodic table, but that's only for the staff access. And then there's a composting pilot taking place right now in Weaver Towers, which has been very successful. But that's like the only places that people have composting. So we're hoping to like branch that out to all areas of campus. Another result from the survey was that people wanted composting specifically in the dining hall, like Mines Market and periodic table for students. So that's what we're hoping to do. And we already have a composting contract with GFL, which is, they work with Golden and the city of Golden. So we're hoping to like expand our contract with them, if that answers your question.
It answers the scope of it, but I was also, one of the things as a personal issue I have with composting is that I don't always know whether something is compostable. And a lot of times I think it is and it isn't. And so that's where I was questioning the educational standpoint of it, of being able to communicate to students, teachers, faculty, everything as to what actually is compostable and what is not, and what we should do with the stuff that is not. That type education level. Are you going to participate with that, undertake that as well?
Yes, yeah. So we're planning on launching some videos and doing some events that educate people on this topic. And we're also planning to partner with the city of Golden kind of on this, because they just kind of went all in with composting for their residents in the city. So that's what we're planning on doing. And then, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
It was just the education part of it, educating students, faculty, staff, everybody as to what can be and cannot be compostable, and what we should do with the stuff that is not being composted.
Yes.
And then what do they do with the compost? What happens to it?
I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'm not 100% confident about this, but I know that it goes like away to like the GFL center, I'm pretty sure. And I think they just like put it down. I guess they use it to grow food or something. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that they like.
That was more curiosity. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no worries. Thanks.
My question is going to be a little bit along the lines of Terry's question. Like, could you go a little bit more in depth about the educational opportunities and how you came up with the $5,000 cost for those?
Yes. So basically, right now with what we are working with, we kind of are doing a lot of free advertisement like on Instagram. But if we wanted to put out flyers and table and buy merchandise for people, that would cost some money. And then if we also are trying to like work with Golden, that would also, I think, cost some money. I'm still kind of working out the details because we're pretty new, but basically just expanding our outreach would take some resources, because we want to try to reach as many people as possible. And like, if we are going to try to implement composting fully, that's also going to require resources, because composting right now is very expensive, just because of like the labor shortage in general. And like individual bins, like they cost about $250 a month right now for like a small tote. And so we need like resources for that, like bringing the cost down. So yeah, it would mostly be videos, trainings, and events that would cost the most money.
I guess to dovetail on that, honestly, I think when you are requesting that amount of money, Genevieve, it would have been better for you to come in with a breakdown, if you will. And so I appreciate you doing that in your presentation. Though written wise, that would be very helpful for us too. So my other question would be also, so is it that you are at this point in the phase of just educating people, and so therefore then the compost itself, the mechanism of how you would do it, or creating the compost, that is out of your scope? Is that my understanding? Just wanted to re-emphasize what Terry asked, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's completely out of our scope. I mean, education is our main priority right now, because based on that survey and like just kind of general like behavior that we witness at Mines, like a lot of students don't really know about composting or how to responsibly compost without contaminating it. So our main objective would be to try to like reduce contamination first and implement smaller pilots like the one in Weaver. We're planning on doing one in the traditional halls and also one in Greek life. But yeah, once we have the education program kind of like a good foundation down, we're going to really work on like expanding the composting itself. And so that would mean like expanding our contract with GFL probably, and trying to reduce costs, which is another project we're doing also. So yeah.
So that company, GFI, is the company that takes the matter, the green matter, right? And then they actually produce the compost. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's a private contract with them because it's not really through Sodexo. And so, yeah, I've been talking with the sustainability office about this, and their costs are going up. I don't think it's a Sodexo problem necessarily, but like that's one of the main problems we're facing is like the increased cost of composting. So this is why the money would be really beneficial for like preserving the current composting programs we already have and then growing the ones that we want to start.
Real quick, I know we have 1 minute, but where is the highest need? Obviously, the periodic table is pretty obvious. for the student staff composting, but if you were going to rank the next 3 or 4 places that you wanted composting bins to be, education's great, but if I don't have a compost bin around me, you can educate me all you want, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I think Mines Market would be the #1 place actually, because that's like where all the most people eat. Like as the freshmen, they serve probably the most people. So Mines Market, and then I would say the residence halls are probably following that, like probably Spruce and the Trads, because I think those are the 2 biggest. Maple as well, and then continuing the one in Weaver. And then if we could go tier down, it would probably be academic buildings next, probably Brown Hall, because they have like Blasters Brew in the library with Book and Brew. So those would be the main places I'd say.
Thank you so much, judges, Genevieve and Public Sustainability Forum, for your very thoughtful presentation. It's time for us to transition to our 5th and final group, Kickstart. Permita and Fisher, we're excited to hear from you.
Hi, my name is Fisher Argusino. I'm one of the co-presidents of Kickstart.
Hi, my name is Permita Madavi. I'm a co-president and the treasurer of Kickstart.
So what Kickstart is our goal is to create a cohesive, diverse, and inclusive community at Mines for everybody from a variety of different backgrounds. This comes from personal experiences that we've had at this school, and then also personal experiences from the rest of the members. And the way we hope to do this is to create spaces on campus where we can have nuanced and inclusive discussions about race relations in the United States. And we encourage a diversity of thoughts, which means we want everybody to come in regardless of perspective. And we hope that through that, we'll be able to craft solutions that are community backed and effective for improving the community at Mines for everybody.
So a little bit about our origin. Our group was actually founded in the Spruce Hall last year during the pandemic. We were founded on the basis of wanting to share our stories and really prevent any kind of racial stereotyping or extreme acts of racism at our college. And so Kickstart was founded to create the community that we believe that the school needed in terms of spreading awareness and also being able to have knowledge of every culture. So our goals for the school is, one, to work towards creating such a safe community that we actually increase the minority enrollments for the school population. And we've actually seen a little bit of that increase with the new freshman coming class. And furthermore, we're also trying to make Kickstart a regular program in the Residence Hall Association. We want this to be embedded into the culture of Mines, as well as spread within far reaches of the generations of students to come. And we also want to make sure that awareness is spread throughout Mines and the voice of people are heard in minority groups and everywhere. It's really hard to express your opinion when there's not a solid outlet. So Kickstart wants to be that outlet for students and even staff members. And we want to expand and really share our individual cultures as an end goal of, creating that huge diversity. And finally, we want to just have a cohesive community which students are supported and feel welcomed, and everybody can come and share their opinions.
All right, so we have a 3-pronged approach that we use in order to accomplish these goals. The first is something that's done through the events that we host. The first, community building. We want to create a solid community for minorities at Mines so that they can speak with each other, and then also everybody can come in as well, of course, so that we can all learn from each other's experiences and understand the things at Mines that gives us a little trouble and things that we feel can be improved so that we can make actionable solutions. The second will be student-led discussions. We feel it is vital for schools, specifically a primarily white institution like Mines, to have these spaces where we can talk openly about these issues without stepping on anybody's toes. We want everybody to feel that comfortable sharing whatever misconceptions they have about one another, anything that they think might be wrong with the school, anything they feel that the school is doing well, so that we can really understand the problem that is at the school and get to the root cause. And then lastly, we do a ton of collaborative events with many different organizations. So for example, RHA, MEP, and MAC, we have a couple of events with those organizations coming up, along with some other professional cultural organizations such as SACE and SHIP and NESB. So our future goals for Kickstart are, one, to create a solid leadership structure so that we can actively recruit freshmen and underclassmen so that they can inherit our spots as in leadership positions as we move up the ranks of Minds and eventually graduate. The next thing is to integrate more programming with RHA, because we believe if we can have programming as a freshman, within 4 or 5 years, we'll be able to have a culture at Minds where people understand these issues and understand this programming so that we can have more productive discussions about these complex issues. We hope to strengthen our partnerships with the other aforementioned organizations that we work with on campus. And we hope to ultimately shift the culture at Minds so that it's a community for everybody. We definitely love the school, we love being here, and we just want to make sure that it's a community that everybody can thrive in.
So why we need your help is to execute our approaches of having this organization. We will need funding to have decorations, food, beverages, and informational posters at our events. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a list of events we are planning to continue throughout the year. And unfortunately, because we were developed during COVID times, we weren't given the greatest startup funding from the school, and also because we are identified as a diversity group, but we're not quite doing what NSBE and SACE and all those organizations are doing. We're more focused on race relation discussions. We're not getting more of our activity side funded. So we would love to have Philanthropy Tank help us to be able to have awesome food like presented in the pictures, and we really like to have students dive into a culture. So members of Kickstart do months of research to make sure they understand the culture very well, and the presence of decorations and food is always as authentic and can be, but unfortunately cultural food is a little more expensive to afford in Colorado. So we would like any help we can get to make sure we can have the best events with the best amount of food. Thank you so much for your time. We can take any questions now.
You talk about your name a little bit. If I was just looking at club names, I wouldn't get it. I would think you're raising money for somebody.
Yes. So thank you for that question. We thought a lot about the name that we wanted to do, and we decided we didn't want to attach it to diversity, race, or anything in that nature, because ultimately the goal of Kickstart is we recognize whatever problems of racism we might have on campus or just in the world. It's a human issue, and we don't want people to feel like, oh, because I'm white, I'm not allowed to be a part of this. We want to make sure that our name is something where ultimately what we want to do is kickstart this discussion on campus, so that way we can improve certain issues here.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, you know, that having kind of a generic name that anybody would feel comfortable attending an event, you know, because if they were to see your group right now that's starting the club, somebody that is not of color may feel uncomfortable coming to your event. So how would you encourage, you know, everybody? It doesn't matter what their background or ethnicity, race, or anything. How would you encourage, you know, the broad community to participate?
Yes. So the way we approach this issue is we do a lot of partnerships with RHAs. We have a lot of help from the RAs. And then in terms of messaging, we make it very clear that this is more of a thought think tank organization. The idea isn't to project some sort of agenda. It's to get everybody together to talk about these issues openly and honestly without fear of judgment from whoever's in the discussion. We have pretty well enforced discussion norms that we host. We've hosted 3 discussions, and I have had experience hosting discussions like this in the past. I've hosted 8 or 9 or so total around several issues that are pretty dicey and difficult to manage. So the way is to make it clear for people that they're welcome at this event and that we encourage a diversity of thought, whether or not that's considered popular or PC or whatever.
Yeah, and also to add on to that, since our organization was founded in such a small group, such as Spruce Hall, it's a lot of our friends and peers who kind of heard the story of Kickstart through us, and now they're out there, whether they're living on campus or off campus, just spreading the word from the original story of how we invite everybody, and we really want everybody to show up and share their opinions.
Hi. So I actually heard about y'all through like the grapevine. So I think this is really cool that you finally come apart. And at first I really didn't understand, similar to Andrew's question about like why exactly Kickstart, but thank you so much for providing that context. So one thing that I keep on going back to when you come to these, let's just call them difficult conversations, okay? There has to be a framework that you go by, and not necessarily that I'm not undermining at all the fact that you can handle this, right? But what type of framework are you following? Have you seen the resources that we've provided? Well, the DINA provided. So let me just stop at that. So I'd like a little bit of explanation on the framework that you use.
Yes, of course. So the way that first I'll walk you through the structure of how we host discussions currently. So in the beginning, there's around a 15-20 minute presentation of the topic, some background information about it. And then we break up into groups of around 8 to 12. We'll probably reduce the group sizes just because we feel that it's a little more intimate setting helps. And then we have 2 prompts for 20 minutes each. So there are 2 prompts on the screen. There's a big screen in the front. There's 2 prompts on it. And then everybody discusses these for 20 minutes. And then we continue to move on to the prompts for about a total of an hour. There are 3 sets of questions total. During the course of the discussion, the goal is to keep everybody sharing their personal experiences about this issue. So we try to make sure that discussions like these easily can go off on a tangent. And we have had experiences with this where people will get a little personal with it, or like very personal with it, or they'll start getting a little defensive. And the way we use those situations is either we take them out of the discussion and speak with them one-on-one to make sure that we understand, or if they feel comfortable enough, depending on their mood at the time, we'll talk with them about it and encourage to share their why, because we do set pretty rigid standards of if someone is sharing their opinion and it can be backed up authentically, they're not just saying it to get a reaction or a ruse out of other people, they do have the right to be listened to and understood first. And of course, we do understand that we do not have the perfect discussion moderating framework or techniques or whatever, because we understand our position as college students in this issue. So we have reached out to DINA about, we've met with some members of it, Megan Allen and Nick Dawkin. They're our advisors for this. And they definitely help us out a lot with that. And we've also looked into taking some DINA workshops in order to figure out better ways to host these discussions. I myself have been to a couple of them actually.
Hi, I have a couple of questions for you, and you answer the third one that I have, which was what kind of professional development you're getting in order to facilitate these questions. So one of my questions is, after these conversations happen, which is great that there is a forum for the students to voice their opinions and their concerns, but what kind of actions are being taken? Is there any kind of like data that is being collected, not on the students per se, but on the more salient topics that are of concerns to the students that can be then shared with minds in order to affect change in the institution?
Yeah, so I think as of right now, because we are a tier 1 club, we're obviously still in development, but ultimately what I see as my personal vision for Kickstart, I want us to not only have those discussions, but I really want students to be engaged in those events, and we want to be able to use the funding to possibly in the future send kids out to conferences and cultural head like issues and stuff like that. We want people to get involved in their community outside of Mines, and I think the ultimate goal for Kickstart is to become a national thing, and I think you can add on to that a little bit.
Yes, and then in terms of data collection, after each discussion, we have a survey that people fill out. So they fill out topics that they want to discuss at next meetings, and also topics that they felt particularly passionate about that popped up during the meeting. So one thing that is very, very prevalent that we've gotten often is intersectionality. That's one of the biggest topics that a lot of people have approached us about and to cover and speak about. And the second thing that we're hoping to do is create a better way to collect data for improving diversity on campus. I feel that Mines has a pretty good data set and trying to figure that out, but we would like to work with DINA and the administration to see if there's any other way we can help with that data collection so that we can have data-driven solutions, because we understand that a lot of issues like this, you talk about them and then you try to implement something, but to have data backing such an abstract issue is something that we are definitely passionate about solving.
And then my second question was regarding the ask is mostly tied to food for the events. So my question is, are you planning on reaching out to community outside of Mines, maybe to provide some of those moving forward and like get into the BSO system to, within the tier system to ask for funding moving forward for your club?
Yes, of course. And I think Mines ultimately is going to have to do some fundraising for in terms of the food, plus also like if you want to provide any apparel. I know SEL has some restrictions with that. So we are hoping to fundraise for our like personal benefits. But actually during this presentation itself, we are so fascinated by the work that the previous groups are doing, and any kind of collaboration we can get with their connection with the community will be awesome. So the presenters, please reach out to us. We're really interested in your work. And I think, for us, like the previous events, all the members have cooked. We go out to our local shops that we know from our parents that tie to our culture, and we gather all that we can. And a lot of last year's food came out of our own pockets, but it was so worth it to kind of show everybody. But definitely in the future, I think once we become a more prominent organization, we definitely want to have that outreach. We want to at least definitely get that side funded. But I think also the help from Minds will also kind of help kickstart that kind of movement.
All righty, thank you guys so much. Thank you, judges Parmita and Fisher and Kickstart, for sharing your great presentation with us. We are nearing the end of our event, so to wrap up, we will have each of our 5 amazing groups share a 1-minute short closing statement directed at the panelists and community. Applicants will be going in the same order as presentations, so Fighting Hunger at Mines, Grown at Mines, Gastronauts, Public Sustainability Forum, and Kickstart. Please go ahead and jump in with your statement when the other one is done.
I think that's my cue. Thank you guys so much for your attention. I'm excited to fight hunger and all its associated challenges together so that we can ensure optimal performance and livelihood of everybody at Mines.
At Grown Up Minds, we believe sustainability begins at the individual level, but it thrives at the community level. So funding from Philanthropy Tank helps support this vision and provide the educational opportunities and support our connections, as well as encouraging student involvement. We just believe that Minds not only climbs together, it grows together.
Philanthropy Tank is a great opportunity for our very young club to start lifting off and get the chance to start providing members with the things that they need to participate and to start really building that community and raising awareness about this new club. We seek to bring people together around a desire to make food and expand your culinary horizons. So regardless of the outcome, congrats to everybody, and thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation tonight. We sincerely hope you will help us make a positive difference at Minds for years to come. Our planet and our future depend on us to make important decisions for our community today. To have a happy and healthy campus, we need to support the students' wish for better climate accountability. With the full implementation of composting at Minds in the future, we can virtually eliminate food waste altogether and dramatically reduce Minds' carbon footprint. It all starts with educating others and passing on our passion for sustainability. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to us today. For us, it's a big deal for us to be able to present something like this to a group of high rollers, like us, I would say. And I appreciate having a group of people like this being able to listen to our mission. We love this school. We love Minds. Parmita and I know, and like a bunch of people, we have used a lot of the opportunities that Minds has gave us. There's so many things here that we believe we want to share with so many other people. And then we want to share these opportunities with people that come here in the future. So the reason, ultimately, it goes back to the reason that we started this organization is to kickstart this discussion around race relations in the US on this campus so that we can open up the community so that it's more inclusive for everybody at this school.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all 5 of our applicant teams for your wonderful and philanthropic spirits. You guys all did an amazing job, and your ideas are all super creative and inspiring. Thank you, judges, for your time and your unbiased eyes and ears. Your feedback is incredibly invaluable, I know, for each one of these groups. To the Minds community, thank you for attending and engaging in our 7th annual Philanthropy Tank event. Now is your chance to vote for your favorite project. In addition to the judges' collective scores and feedback, we will be taking into consideration community votes. Each person may submit one vote at weare.minds.edu/tank. Please also feel free to forward the link along to your friends and family. We want to get the whole community involved. Winners will be announced next week on social media and our website. You can follow us on Instagram by searching Minds Philanthropy Council, and you can also check back on the website to find out who wins funding. Thank you again, and have a great night, everybody.